Hello, I'd like to deposit this to checking.
Fate is a fickle master.
What?
The future is uncertain.
Okay, and what's my account balance?
The horizon is cloudy. I see a long, treacherous voyage filled with great peril.
Look, can I just get a deposit slip or something?
A fortune bank teller. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I see a yellow-eyed serpent and a low APR.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
This is the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Good Wednesday morning, everybody, and welcome in to another edition of Golic and Wingo. Swagger like us. I mean, why wouldn't it be? Glad you're with us. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic. We are on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. It's Wednesday, hump day, Mike, so we begin the pivot from what was Monday night, the national championship game, to what many people consider to be the greatest 2 days of the NFL season, post and regular divisional weekend.
What are the odds that Nick Saban is on his way to the office right now?
I think he's probably already there.
It could be there already?
I'm pretty sure he's already
there. How
there.
quickly he starts into the next year, and he's not alone. There are others that do it as well. We've talked about this as after a season ends, when you get to the championship, then you as you raise the trophy and are happy about it, a couple hours later you're like, okay, guys, we're way behind.
Exactly.
We got to get back to work. And Nick Saban kind of magnifies that. And so I would imagine he's going to get after it pretty hard today. And those coaches will be working, and the T-shirts and the hats will be pushed to the side. They'll wait for the ceremony, for the rings and all that. But right now they'll be throwing themselves knee-deep in work for next year.
Hey, enjoy those 6 hours off that we had.
Yes, exactly
they were
right.
good. Now, you were sleeping for most of them.
Yeah.
But it's time to go back to work.
Hope you had good sleep.
I mean, Bill Belichick said that once. He said, well, the problem with the Super Bowl is we get way behind on our preparation for the next season.
I mean, listen.
If that's the cross you have to bear.
There was nothing better when you're celebrating with a parade and you're just, everybody is giddy, and the chant that's going is no days off.
No off days, yeah.
I mean, are you kidding me?
It sums it up, man.
And everybody's chanting that. The players had to be looking around going, what the hell are you saying, man? Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Give me a day.
Yeah. Give me something.
Give me one 24-hour block.
Oh, my gosh.
But look, that's why Saban has won 5-9.
Enjoy it, guys.
Yeah.
So the winter program starts tomorrow.
Exactly. That's why Belichick and company have won 5-16.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Unbelievable.
So as we make that pivot, here's what we got coming up for you today. At 7:30 Eastern, Jeremy Fowler, one of our ESPN NFL writers and covers the Steelers for us, for NFL Nation. He'll join us to talk about the rematch between the Jags and the Steelers, and perhaps most significantly, where Antonio Brown is in his health, coming back from that torn calf muscle that he had in the loss to the Patriots at Heinz Field Week 15. All along, the goal was to have him ready. He did return to practice this week, but returning to practice and playing at a high level are two very different things.
Listen, playing in the game and, yes, playing at how you normally play are two different things. Are you playing at Antonio Brown level? It would be tough to think he could be all the way back there, but a high percentage of that would be pretty darn good as well for as good a player as he is. So that's something I guarantee you we're not going to know until game day, when all the cameras will be on him on pregame, when he's out there running around. Everybody will be looking for a little bit of a limp. Is he favoring it? How's he cutting and all that? So we'll see. You'll hear all the things. You've already heard a ton out of him as far as playing, but I don't know what Antonio Brown we're going to get. I don't even think they even know until they get out there and do it.
So he'll join us at 7:30. At 8 o'clock, the big man, Damien Woody, will be here. He'll help us break down all the matchups, including that one, as well as the Patriots against the Titans, and what to expect from Philadelphia. I mean, that's going to be the interesting thing here, because I don't think we've ever had a one seed feel less like a one seed, obviously because of the issue to Carson Wentz, and it's not taking anything away from the rest of the team and how good they may be in that defense and what they can do.
You don't have a guy who was considered the MVP of the league.
That's it.
You have to, and at the most important position on the field.
In team sports in this country, so as we saw in the national championship game.
So there has to be some trepidation going into it. So we'll break that down.
And of course, the Saints and Vikings are going to be a really interesting game. We'll get into that. So we'll get into all the games with Damien a little bit later. Minkah Fitzpatrick, by the way, of the recently minted, now back to work, national champions from Alabama.
Of the draft-eligible players that were on that field on Monday night, he was the highest rated of them all. And it is a collection of between Alabama and Georgia of going on to the next level. He is the highest rated of them all, and he is a player.
Yeah, the defensive back. Now, he's a junior, and so he's actually number 2 on Mel Kiper's big board behind only Saquon Barkley. So we'll talk to him about what the future holds for him. And Tom Waddle from Waddle and Sylvie will join us in Chicago talking about what's going on with the Bears and the hiring of their new head coach, Matt Nagy.
No, who is very open about his shortcomings, I would say, and as a play caller in that Kansas City, Tennessee wild card game of how things didn't work out. He was very open about that. And 39-year-old looked like, there was a couple of choices maybe between that and the Colts for him, and they're very happy in Chicago. As a guy, I think for most, obviously in the football world, you know who he is, but I think a lot of people outside the football world didn't have a whole lot of knowledge about him. But I will say this. Remember, I had said he went to Delaware as a quarterback. Then he played in the arena, in arena football for a while. And I said, I think I may have missed him in my time with Mike Adamle and then with Greeny. Turns out I didn't.
Oh, you called the game?
Somebody sent us a YouTube of one of the arena bowls he was playing in that me and Greeny were doing. And, we were talking to him, had him mic'd up and stuff.
Which team? Because I did, Schlereth and I, at the same time you and Greeny were doing, we also did arena football games.
I think he might have been with Dallas that year. He had come over from a Georgia team. I was with Dallas that year in that title game. But it was because they just sent the user. I didn't see the year or anything, and I didn't look it up, and I will. But I did cover him, and he was a very, very loud, engaging, a rah-rah type of a quarterback and player. It'll be interesting to see how that carries over into his coaching role, his first time as a head coach.
And the interesting thing there is now we have 2 head coaches in the NFL that spent time in the Arena League. Not only him, but Jay Gruden.
Right.
Was a long time with the Orlando Predators.
I definitely covered him.
A solid franchise in the Arena
He was
Football League,
a player and then a coach. He had done it all there. Definitely covered him for more than a few years.
All right, so we got a lot to get to, so let's start this show as we do on most days with...
It's time for... Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not, it's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
And we start off the top with college basketball. 9th-ranked Sooners beat number 8 Texas Tech 75-65 behind who else? Trae Young's game-high 27 points and 9 assists. Young has scored at least 25 points in 13 straight games.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Last night wasn't one of his better shooting nights. No. In fact, his worst shooting night of the season. He was 7-23, just 30%. But Oklahoma did move to 3-1 against top 10 teams. His first half was bad, just 5 points, 1 of 12 shooting, 0 of 10 on contested shots. Second half, he put up 22 with 6 of 11 in that second half. So had a better second half. Looked like, because Texas Tech has a very good defense. So that was, you're wondering, was he going to be able to equal his totals? And certainly his second half helped them do that. More importantly, they get the win.
It just threw up on the screen here. I think I called the game with Matt Nagy too, because he was with the Columbus Destroyers when Schlereth and I called one of those games, so we both forgot that we had gone through the Matt Nagy process in our
and certainly we will try and get him on the show. Yeah. By then we'll have that all locked down.
We'll get that all straight.
What games we did from the Arena League as teams changed a little bit there, but it was a ball to do that league for sure.
I love doing the Arena
me
games.
Too.
That was a lot of fun.
Yep.
Best thing about Trae Young and Oklahoma here is you're right. His first half was terrible, but it was what he did in the second half.
Right.
And that's the thing. Everything you see with this kid shows how special he is. But when he has an off night, it's that mentality. Eventually they'll go in because that's what I do.
Keep
they
shooting.
Go in. Yeah, exactly right.
Shooter going to shoot.
So you're going to shoot your way into a streak or shoot your way out of a streak. But either way, you're going to keep shooting, and it worked for Trae Young again against a very good Texas Tech defense.
Off the top.
Well, that's the present of college basketball. And for guys like you and me, this was our wheelhouse, big man. Big East nostalgia in full effect last night. Patrick Ewing made his return to Madison Square Garden for the first time as the head coach of the Georgetown Hoyas.
Yeah.
What am I talking about?
Yeah.
Georgetown Hoyas. See the shirt I'm wearing.
Yeah.
To a 69-66 win over St. John's, coached by Chris Mullen.
How about that? I mean, these two guys, Chris Mullen said he wore a tie, said he wore it for Ewing. These guys were on 2 Olympic teams together.
They were on the original Dream Team, 84.
Incredible. They matched up each other again 4 times, and Ewing was 3-1 against him. They were ranked in the top 3 in all 4 meetings. I mean, incredible what Chris Mullen left as the leading scorer there. We know, obviously, Patrick Ewing's career there. Met in the Final Four, in 85, Thompson, and, they were national champs in 84 and then 85.
That was the three of the top schools in the Final Four.
Mullen
Three of the Final Four were all Big East. And
St. John, one of the Final Four games, Georgetown beat them in there right before they lost to Villanova. I mean, that was just cool to see.
Yeah.
That was just really cool to see. And now Georgetown started out well 8-0, then they got into conference play some. They're sitting there at 12-4 right now, 2-3 to the conference. A little tougher for Chris Mullen. They're 10-7, 0-5 in the conference. The Big East just obviously isn't what it was. I mean, when we were going through school, that was when I was
dominant.
going through Notre Dame, when I was watching the Big East play. At that point, these guys square off against one another. That was very cool to see.
Yeah, and the original Dream Team, the reason why I say it's 84, 92 was the first time in Barcelona where they had the professionals play.
Right.
But it was the 84 team that most people remember as the impetus for the Dream Team. That team was loaded in 84. That team was so loaded, Charles Barkley didn't make the team.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how good. I remember reading a Sports Illustrated article about the Olympic tryouts, and Bob Knight at Indiana was the head coach, and he was working these guys, and they were going great. And Barkley was playing really well, but they didn't think he was going to make the team. And one of my favorite quotes ever from Sports Illustrated, all the years I read it growing up, they said Charles' nickname was the bread truck back then. Just because obviously he's a big dude. He at Auburn, he went by the nickname the bread truck. And one of the quotes, unnamed NBA scout said, "If they cut the bread truck, I'm pulling for the Russians."
How about that?
I mean, that team was loaded. You had Steve Alford, Patrick Ewing, Vern Fleming, a great guard from Georgia, Michael Jordan, big men, Joe Klein, John Concat, Chris Mullin, Sam Perkins from North Carolina, Alvin Robertson, a great guard from Arkansas, Wayman Tisdale. I mean, that team was they blew everybody away.
Yeah, it really was amazing. But then also that setup last night is going to make you go back and look at some of the highlights when Mullen's teams played against Ewing's teams. I mean, that was just some great Big East basketball. And you talk about teams beating one another up then through the season.
There were no gimmies.
Oh, my God.
There were no layups in those games. I mean, that was the thing because you
get a layup, you just your nose may be bleeding as you head down the other end.
You may come back with your arm in a sling. But what made that time in the Big East so great is it was all the big cities were playing against each other. You know, Villanova out of Philadelphia, St. John's out of New York, obviously Georgetown and D.C. You had all these guys that played together, in cities, and they were playing against each other, representing their cities, and that's what made it so much fun. I mean, it was really a
ball, and so to see these guys now walk out in suits, instead of shorts and a basketball jersey is kind of odd, but it's pretty cool seeing them leading their former teams.
Yeah, in fact, I ran into Patrick Ewing in 2012. I was down in D.C. Well, we'll tell that later. We'll tell that story later.
Good story.
Yeah, we'll tell
it later, though. I like that.
Off the top.
We'll continue with Off the Top. And NBA now, the Thunder fell to the Blazers Tuesday, 117-106, with Russell Westbrook putting up 22 points, 12 assists, and 9 boards. 6th time this season he's finished an assist or rebound shy of a triple-double, most in the NBA.
Right there, and he also has the most triple-doubles in the NBA at 14. So just imagine if he had a few more of those. But again, just imagine with him.
What's wrong with Russell Westbrook
last year? I mean, this is ridiculous of what we're talking about here, of him being one shy. As you mentioned, twice as many as anybody else. The 14 triple-doubles are also twice as many as anyone else in the league. So they take on the Timberwolves this evening at 8 Eastern on ESPN. So he's just a triple-double waiting to happen. These are teams that are 5th and 6th in the conference as well. So that's the one thing about it, is especially then the difference in playing tonight against Minnesota. To me, the difference is Minnesota is building to something.
Yep.
And for Oklahoma City, I think this is the only year you're going to have those three guys together, and then that's going to splinter off. So they got a 1-year shot, where Minnesota, you really see what's building there when they play tonight.
Well, they're building to something, but it's just going to end in April or May or June. I mean,
no. I mean, down the road, down the road, those guys staying together for some years.
I'm talking about Oklahoma City.
That's what I mean.
They're building to something. It'll be
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. They're ending this year, where Minnesota, who the team they're playing in, that's going to go on for some years.
I think we both missed each other.
We
were both sort of saying the same thing, and somehow it didn't work together.
Yeah.
And I'd like to apologize on behalf of this show.
We'll do
everybody. We'll figure that out.
Off the top.
Staying in the NBA, the Warriors have won 12 straight games against the Clippers, and meet them tonight, 10:30 Eastern on ESPN. Kevin Durant has missed the last 3 games with that right calf strain, but is probable tonight.
Yeah, they and how about what Steph Curry? Now, again, Kevin Durant, first on him, he needs 25 points to reach 20,000 points in his career. If he gets there on Wednesday, he'd be the second youngest to reach 20,000. I think it's pretty obvious who the first youngest is. It's LeBron James was 28 years and 17 days. Kevin Durant right now is 29 years and 103 days old. Second place is Kobe Bryant at 29 years, 122 days old. So Kevin Durant will jump ahead of him. Guys that did it before 30, LeBron was first, Kobe, Wilt Chamberlain, and Michael Jordan. And then the hottest player, though, quite honestly, is Steph Curry. Remember, he was out with that ankle injury. Since returning from the 11-game absence with that injury, Curry has been in 5 games. He's averaged 35 points, 57% from the field, 53% from the three-point line in that stretch. So those guys back on the court together, it's going to be a long year for a lot of other people.
I was about to say, just get used to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Get used to it, because we've had some people nicked up, whether it's Steph Curry or Kevin Durant, and when they get there, it seems to all work out pretty well for them. Draymond Green's missed some games. It doesn't seem to matter.
Nope.
They are the deepest team in the NBA. There's no question, and we'll see how that plays out going forward. Okay, that was off the top here on Golic and Wingo, but of course, one of the biggest stories that came out yesterday, it was the worst-kept secret of all time in the NFL, Jon Gruden. Now the new head coach of the Raiders for the second time after 16 years away, and the introductory press conference. Well, it was certainly interesting, and it got off to a very interesting start with the way owner Mark Davis tried to explain the significance of the day.
Raider Nation, this is a big effing deal. Please welcome the head coach of the Oakland Raiders, Mr. Jon Gruden.
So it's a big deal.
Big effing deal.
It's kind of a big deal.
And before that, they showed an incredible video. They dropped the lights. They dimmed the lights like you did before a basketball game and introductions.
And
they
now,
dimmed them in there.
Let's get ready to rumble.
And they showed a great video clips of Gruden. So, we'll see. He took some questions afterward, talked about how emotional it was for him and how happy he was to be back. I thought some good questions out there. You knew there was going to be a question about the money. It's reported 10 years and $100 million. And I just figured, listen, at that point you just say, I'm not talking about the details of my contract, but I love John's answer. I'm not really sure of the details of it. And really, we're going to believe that one? You don't know the details of the contract
let's
that
just
you
say
signed?
he knows the most important details.
Yes, he does.
I think we know. I think we can all agree. I probably don't know all the details of every contract I've ever signed, but I know what matters.
You know one deal.
I know what matters.
And the proper people have the proper number for direct deposit.
That's exactly right.
But, as you sit there and you look at it, though, there have been Jon Gruden is now, from the numbers, is the 12th head coach since 1960 to have multiple stints with one team, and the second time around doesn't work out so well.
No,
none of those previous 11 head coaches ever reached the Super Bowl. In fact, just 4 reached the postseason. The winning percentage is under 40% on the coach's second stint with their team, compared to over 60% winning percentage the first time they're with their team. The first time they're with their team, they've averaged about 6 years staying there. The second stint with the team, they've averaged less than 3 years there. So, that's going to be the question.
Then it's great that he got a 10-year contract.
Well, yeah,
man.
that's
the
why,
best thing going.
That's why I think a lot of people were scratching their head a little bit to say, okay, why so much? Why so long? 54% winning percentage for him. But again, it is more than that. It is keeping the hype going in Oakland for another year or two, and then having that, bleed over into Vegas and a guy like Jon Gruden to help that along.
Just so people understand, when Mark Davis says it's kind of a big effing deal, this is why. There were 110 media members there, 45 to 50 former players there, including Hall of Famers like Jim Otto, Howie Long, Tim Brown, Jerry Rice, Ted Hendricks, Mike Haynes, Dave Casper, Willie Brown, James Lofton. Others on hand included former Raiders head coach Tom Flores. You had Jim Plunkett there, Cliff Branch, our own Charles Woodson, Rich Gannon. So this was, this meant, for this franchise, this meant a lot to them on a lot of different levels.
Yeah, it did. And the Raiders have always been a team that has kept their players close. A lot of them would end up working for the organization for a while as well. And that alumni group is a close group there, no matter if they were in Oakland or in L.A. at times as well, and soon to be Las Vegas. The one thing about it, if you were a Raider, that's a tight-knit group, so it's not shocking a lot of those all-time greats showed up for this, because that's Raider Nation, man. That is absolute positive Raider Nation, and saying it's a big effing deal is about as Raider-esque as you could do.
Absolutely, right? That was.
I'm shocked he didn't actually say the word and just make everybody have to beep it out.
That would have been the most Raider thing.
Yeah.
That was very Raider. That would have been the most Raider thing.
That's exactly right.
So Mark Davis got up and introduced Gruden in that very interesting way. And when Gruden finally took to the microphone, it was pretty clear he had a passion for coaching and coaching this team.
Yeah, there is unfinished business. And as a coach, I was traded. I've been fired. I've missed the game terribly, but I've really missed the Raiders. And for my career to end on that night in New England, it still ticks me off. And I'm so thrilled to be back here. I hope people understand the emotion inside of me. I feel unfinished business. I also feel a lot of loyalty, and I feel a lot of responsibility to get the Raiders going again. And it's been a while since we've consistently performed at a high level, and that's really all I care about. I'm going to do everything I can to help this team get right again.
Now, they did have the season a year ago where they went 12-4, but
they
obviously, much in the same way we're talking about Philadelphia, it changed dramatically when Derek Carr broke his leg in the next to last week. And for those that didn't make the connection, when he said, I hated to see my season and career with the Raiders end that night in New England, that was the Tuck Rule game in 2001 playoffs. Where obviously they thought they had sacked Brady and gotten the fumble to basically end the game, but the rule was, it's now gone.
Yes, it is.
The rule is now gone, but as it was interpreted at the time, it was the right way to make that call. And of course, those were the two of the most unbelievable kicks I've ever seen in my life from Adam Vinatieri. The one to tie it in a driving snowstorm at Foxborough, I think it was 40-something yards, and the one to win it was less. But I mean, my God, the pressure on to make that kick. And to lose it that way, that's what John was referring to there.
Yeah, and as far as Gruden is concerned, I mean, he had choices, right? All along, he had a choice every single year. When he left coaching, everybody was waiting for him to come back. And we've seen it a lot with the media, with the coaches going into the media for a while and then going back. Everybody figured he would go back, and year after year went by, and year after year he had choices, and he was just waiting for the right choice. Now, I don't know if it was for the kids to get older or what, because he kept thinking, obviously, his wife and his kids, because everybody, when you do something like that, everybody's got to be in on it.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt. And it was just the right time, right place, and perfect storm for him.
Yeah, and look, we wish John the best. Having worked with him here and studio shows on NFL Live and doing stuff with his quarterback coaching school and working with him on the draft. Look, the passion is there. I can tell you this: the passion is still there for Jon Gruden, and I think that's what he wanted to do. Going down and sitting there in those pre-draft meetings and just going through film, he felt like he was at home. And the coaches just do that. I mean, Herm said it when he left. I wanted to feel the grass underneath my feet. I remember when we had Eric Mangini working with us. He was happy doing what he was doing, and then he went somewhere to break down some film, and he put the clicker in his hand, and he said, Trey, I felt like it was the missing finger from my hand. So once it gets in your blood to be a coach, it is really, really hard to give that up, and they almost always invariably go back.
And they really do. And I tell you what, him bringing that up again about the Tuck Rule made me think of two things really quick. Two things in Raider history. Two things that they say. That was a fumble, and Franco Harris didn't catch that ball.
Exactly
that ball hit the ground.
It hit the ground.
The immaculate reception back in 72.
Yeah, so for people that don't know that play, you couldn't have someone else touch it, another offensive player touch it and still be called a reception.
Right.
And that was the big question. Did Frenchie Fuqua, who was the running back, catch it before Franco scampered it into the end zone? So congratulations to John. We'll miss him dearly here, but we wish him all the success going forward in the Raiders.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr. There was a new poll that came out. It came out right after the new year.
Yes, it did. January 4th, I believe it came out.
From a new Gallup poll. And some of the numbers were interesting. 37% of you say football is their favorite sport to watch, and that's still more than 3 times any other sport. Now, that's down a little bit. Football's peak was 43% in 2006. But when people say, why do you always talk about football? Because that's what people still care about.
Yeah,
3 times more, Mike, than any other sport.
You look at the vote now, all adults, the vote went 37% football, 11% basketball, 9% baseball, 7% soccer. And those numbers basically hold, whether it's men, women, then the ages as well. It pretty much holds. Where soccer picks up the most is age 18 to 34. It gets into double digits. Ages 18 to 34, Football is 30, basketball is 11, baseball is 6, and that's the issue baseball has, is that younger crowd, and soccer is 11%. So soccer is actually tied for second there, equal to basketball. So that's where baseball is at a low, at 9%. They are definitely at a low, and a lot of that has to do with the age crowd that they have. I think they said the average person in the ballpark was like 56, 57 years old. They have to find a way to reach that younger crowd.
Absolutely, because that's the way things are sustainable. So if you're looking at football and think, oh, that's good news, right? It's still 3 times as popular as anybody else. Well, this next number may surprise you then, because 57% of Americans say they were fans of professional football, or specifically the NFL, I would imagine. Here, I'm sure there's some arena fans and Canadian League fans and all that kind of stuff. But 57% of Americans say they're fans of professional football. So that sounds great, right? Still almost 60%, right? More than half, and we already saw that most people, by a margin of 3-1, think that football is their favorite sport. So that's really good. Here's the problem that the NFL is facing, Mike. That's down 10 percentage points from the last time they asked that question in 2012. So we've gone from over 2/3 to just under 60% since 2012.
And in that time, the drop-off didn't happen in college football. Yeah. So this wasn't football overall. This was specific to the NFL, and we have well documented the issues, as you said, that the NFL is going through right now. And some of that's dropped, but that same drop-off has not happened in college football. College football, listen, is as hot as ever. You know, we're talking about this poll we're doing, having fun with it, and somebody tweets in, nobody outside Bama or the SEC care about this. Yeah, just like nobody was going to care about that game Monday night. Yeah, and it was the second highest rated game of the championship.
He may be speaking his truth, but that is not the absolute truth.
It's not what people are
Tons
into,
of people watch. I mean, how many times, like when we were in Atlanta on Monday, I'm not watching, UCF is the national champion, or this is a backyard battle, no one cares. The absolute ratings prove the exact opposite of that.
Yep. And as far as the other sports, you look at, again, for how much you want to take into this poll, 9%, the 9% of Americans who mentioned baseball as their favorite sport is the lowest percentage for that sport, for the sport, since the Gallup first asked the question in 1937.
Wow.
So that's a low number for baseball. Soccer is appealing to more adults younger than 55, and baseball more to adults over 55. Yeah. And that's listen. And Rob Manfred, I think is being proactive, just like Adam Silver in the NBA, being proactive in things. But that's something with baseball talking about, picking up the pace of the game. That has to do a lot with the younger generation who want it now, and give me that info now. Let's keep moving. And that's something baseball has got to find a way to do, is a way to attract that younger crowd. And I don't just mean to the ballparks, but watch it on TV as well and get them all involved.
Well, going back to, and we'll talk more about that as we gear up. By the way, pitchers and catchers report in just about a month for spring training. So we'll get more into that as baseball sort of comes back into play here later on in the year. But sticking with the football question, it is interesting, because people always complain about the length of NFL games and replays and all that kind of stuff. Well, college football games are much longer than NFL games. In fact, they increased 3 hours and 24 minutes, I think, was the length in 2016, and yet more people are continuing to watch. So let's try and put ourselves in Park Avenue here. If you're Roger Goodell, the commissioner's office, and the NFL's league offices in New York, when you see these numbers, by the way, football has been the most popular sport in America since 1972, so this has been a continuing theme. Mm-hmm. But when you see that you're down 10 percentage points in professional football, being a fan 67% in 2012 to 57% now, what can you do? What can we do if we're the NFL to try and, hey, let's see if we can reverse those numbers? What do you do?
Listen, people can easily pick out things that that the NFL that's taking them away, from the national anthem protest to the bickering all the time, I think, between the league and the union, the discipline that's going on, the domestic violence issues that are happening and how they've been dealt with, concussion issues. So, yeah, I think you can pick them out. It's just, how do you change it? How do you change it? Yeah. Well, one of the first things that has to change is the relationship between the league and the union. It has to change. You got a few years before that deal comes up, but that has to change. They have to be on the same page on more things. Somehow, some way. I'm not going to sit here and start listing out like I have all the answers, but you know what? They're smart, educated people involved in this. That's one of the things they need to find a way if they're looking into it. And we have the Gallup poll, but all the sports have their own polls and their own numbers as well to look into it. But that's certainly something that can happen. This I found interesting. The last thing on the sheet I have about sports overall. What do you think this says? The number of Americans who say they do not have a favorite sport has grown from 8% in 2000 to 15% now. So that number is almost doubled of people, when asked this question, say, I don't have a favorite sport. So do they like all the sports and watch them all, or are they not into sports anymore?
Well, see, that's the interesting thing there. How do you interpret that data?
Exactly.
Are you saying that I've become to like more sports because I'm just broadening my sports spectrum, or are people saying, yeah, sports no so much isn't for me anymore?
So many other things out there that you can do, or options out there that you're not as into sports. You're right. I don't know the interpretation of that question.
You know, I'd actually love to find out how they asked that question and what the people that ran the poll, how they interpreted that.
How they meant for the question to be asked.
Because it certainly seems like there are two ways to do that. Hey, well, I don't like this sport as much because I like, these other sports as much. Or, the whole sports thing, I'm not doing it as much.
Right.
There are two different ways to do that. So I'd actually like to find that out.
Yeah, I would as well.
Yeah, get on that research.
Somebody get on that. Riley, there you go. Got something to do
Figure
now.
that
There
out.
you go. Uh-huh.
See how we can get that question interpreted. Okay. They're telling me we have to do this.
Yeah, we're going to do this. Come on, man. Let's go.
Well, this is something called Try Trey.
Yes,
and it's brought to you by Discover Card, who will match all the cash back new card members earn at the end of their first years. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations do apply. And that's perfect for this segment. Limitations do apply. So you want to try and explain this?
We're going to try Trey. We're getting to know you more and more. We had some questions we asked you last week or so, and now this time around we're going to try Trey by going Trey or false.
Yes,
is what we're going to do.
So Jerry, our extraordinary bit guy, has come up with these questions, and then you're going to decide whether they're Trey or false. You ready?
Yes.
Here's question number 1.
Trey played high school football with Pro Football Hall of Famer Steve Young. Trey or false?
Trey or false, Trey?
No, you have to answer that.
Oh, I'm going to answer that?
Right, then is that the whole bit?
Oh,
Thank
okay.
You have to decide whether that's true or false.
And maybe I should know about this stuff.
Yeah.
My bad. That's false.
That is correct.
I know it's false. I know you went to high school.
We went to high school together.
In Greenwich, but you did not play high school football.
I did not play high school football with Steve. I did not. Right. I was not on that team. No,
that is false.
I was a quarterback of an 0-6 team, I think, in the 7th grade, and that was the end of it for me.
Triple option?
Oh, yeah. Well, here's a funny thing about Steve. We ran a veer in high school because he was not a really good thrower. And then he goes and sets the record when he finished playing as the highest passer rating of all time.
Yeah.
So
it worked out okay for him.
It did very well. Right. So that was false. We went to the same, as I always like to say with Steve, we were in the same building, but we were in different schools.
Gotcha.
If you know what I mean.
Oh, I know what you mean.
He ran with the cool kids, and the rest of us were stuck somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was false. Let's go to the next question.
Trey is a usable character in an NFL video game. Trey or false?
Wow. Usable.
That's an interesting interpretation.
That for some reason, I'm going to say Trey.
I don't know how to correctly answer this question because I'm going to say I think that's Trey or true.
Right.
Because I've been in a couple of games where I've been the voice of NFL 2K, NFL Street, and I've done some work with
Then
Madden.
That's Trey.
Okay.
That's true.
And I do have a Twitter character on
Absolutely it is.
in the Madden game.
Absolutely,
so, yeah.
I'm saying that. Absolutely
right.
Trey.
So you're 1 for 1. Oh,
you're two for two.
Come on
now.
You're also that's your 2 for 2. Oh, here's the next one.
Trey, an avid golfer with a single-digit handicap, made his first hole-in-one while playing in Hawaii in February of 2005. Trey, false?
I'm going to say false. I don't think you've had a hole-in-one.
Yeah, that's false. 3 for 3, brother.
Yeah.
You're on fire. Now, 2 of those things are true. I do love golf, and I am a single-digit handicap.
You are. What is your?
I'm a 9.
You're a
9. Barely.
Okay.
I'm barely
You're
in single
barely.
digits.
Okay.
But never even really come close. Although, actually, the closest I ever came was in Hawaii. I was playing on a course in Kauai with the pro. It was like 160-yard par 3, and I hit a little 8-iron, and the pro says that's going in. And it never left the stick, and it took one bounce over the cup and settled 3 inches away.
Wow, that's impressive.
And I was like, if I was going to have a hole-in-one, I wanted to be with the pro. You know,
that
guy's a really good golfer.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Did not. Came close.
Go. Nope.
Came close,
right.
but have not. Okay, next one.
Growing up, Trey played the piano. Trey, false?
It's one of those things. I played the piano growing up, and at some point when you get active as a kid and start growing up, you have to put things aside because you're getting too busy. And piano was one of them for me, and I wish I would have stayed with it. I wish I would have. I'm going to say for you, that's Trey. That's true.
You are 4 for 4, my friend. Nicely done.
Yes!
He is en fuego.
How long did you take piano lessons?
Oh, years. Although,
if you sat down at the piano right now, could you just go?
No, I can play like 1 or 2 songs.
If I put music in front of you, could you do it?
Yeah, it'll take a while, but
okay.
I played guitar.
Really?
Yeah, I did a little singing. Yeah, all of that stuff. But you're right. Like you, I wish I'd kept it up.
Wait, you sang?
Oh, yeah.
Did you have like a garage band or something growing up?
Well, actually, I was in a band called Revelation.
Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please tell me there's audio of it somewhere.
God, I hope not. But actually, funny story, the guy who did that, created that band is a guy named Rob Mathis, who is now a very, very famous musician. Rob has done, he toured with Chuck Mangione for a few years. When President Obama was inaugurated, he was in charge of the music for the entire inauguration ceremony. Rob Mathis went on to do great things despite hanging around with me in high school.
So wait, what was the name of it again?
Revelation.
Revelation. So we have Revelations group where you're singing We Need to Find.
No.
And you doing Weather in Binghamton?
Yeah.
In that we have to find as well when you were like, 10.
Yeah.
Or whatever
I would
you
like
were.
to say I was 10, but I was 10 plus 14 or 15.
I'm 4 for 4. We're going to do more of these. I like these questions.
God, no.
We definitely are. That was
that's the end of that game.
No, no. Until a little bit later.
Yeah.
You sang it. That to me is way more interesting than the question. And that's why we do these, to see what we can get to. You were in a band. Were you like the lead singer?
I did sing. Well, Rob played guitar and was the lead singer. I did do some singing and some background stuff, but I did a lot of singing in high school.
You were in the drama club and all that? And play? Wow.
Stuff, yeah.
We need some of that.
No, we don't.
Oh, we do.
We really don't.
That is awesome.
All right, moving on.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
I tell you what, a great sports night last night. Yeah. No doubt about it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We're happy to have the big man, Damien Woody, here with us, ready to talk about Wild Card Weekend. Not Wild Card Weekend, Divisional
Weekend, yeah.
See, I agree. But they'll agree with you more if you put your microphone.
Yeah. There you go.
So what is
the best weekend in football?
See, you're sitting too close to Golic.
Well, at least they didn't give me the turn your mic on.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You are a professional.
They won't do it to the guests.
Okay.
There you go. There you go. What you heard it on the way in the poll that we asked if for some reason because of Nick Saban gets asked every year if he wants to go coach an NFL team or go somewhere else, and the whole issue going on in New England with Bill Belichick and the thoughts that maybe he would want to go coach the Giants, a team he certainly has some history with. Now, we know it's not going to happen, but it's a fun radio question. We also knew it was going to be skewed way toward Belichick because he's had success in the NFL. But some of the reasons we've gotten for why people wanted either or was the thing we were looking for. The classic one, how many rings would Belichick have if he didn't have Brady? Which, of course, the answer is how many rings would Brady have if he didn't have Belichick? So I know the answer, I would imagine in your mind, would be you would take Belichick over Saban to coach in the NFL. Do you think there is any truth at all to these reports going around that he may be disenchanted there now and may have some interest in the Giants?
Well, Lewis and I were talking about, that article was broached on NFL Live yesterday, and the one thing that we said was, where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't think, whether you're up in New England or, fans across the country, I don't think you can really dispute that. These things don't just kind of come out of nowhere. Do I think that Bill would leave New England? I doubt it. He's still under contract, and I just don't foresee Kraft like, oh yeah, let me
go ahead.
Let me go. Yeah, let me let you go wherever you want to go. I don't see that happening, but I do think that there is some truth to the article. There's no question.
Well, that's the thing, is Damien Woody is here with us in studio giving us a straight talk brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, and this is some straight talk. Best phones, best networks, no contract. I mean, the only one that could leave, because Tom isn't going anywhere, and Robert Kraft is not selling the team, so the only one that has the possibility to not be there next year would be Bill, but that's not controlled by Bill. No. That's controlled by Robert Kraft. I mean, you heard Jon Gruden talk about when he was traded away from the Raiders. The only way he's leaving because he's under contract is that Kraft would have to be willing to, part ways with arguably the greatest coach in any sport of all time. I don't see that really going down the pike unless things get way worse than we've seen already.
Listen, I've always said, and Mike, you know this, when it comes to football, coaching matters the most of any sport in this country, more than basketball, baseball. Coaching in football matters more. As great as Tom Brady is, and to me, he's the greatest quarterback ever, give me the great coach, because I think that Coach Belichick was grooming Jimmy Garoppolo and could have done some great things in New England with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. He's done things with Matt Castle, went 11-5 with Matt Castle. And I think most people would agree that Jimmy Garoppolo is a better quarterback than Matt Castle. So give me the great coach over the great quarterback.
The only thing that, and again, this all doesn't matter now because Garoppolo's gone, is how would you have kept him? He was already turning down offers for the Patriots at $18 million a year.
Right.
He was turning them down. Were you really going to franchise tag or back up and pay him $22 million just to wait for him to play another year? Were you really going to bench or get rid of Tom Brady after an MVP season? That's why I didn't buy it. I just think it was a bad timing award. You'd like to keep Garoppolo, but even if you believe the report that Bill was basically told to trade him, I don't know how they were going to keep him anyway, quite honestly.
I struggle with this because, you're talking about two alpha people in New England. But here's one thing that I know about Bill. Bill believed in the Bill Walsh rule of thinking. You get rid of a guy a year early than a year later.
And that was in resume. Richard Seymour, Ty Law, Lawyer Malloy, all those guys.
All those guys. Now,
Vince Wilfork, who played a couple years down the road in Houston.
Are they Tom Brady? No, they're not Tom Brady. Tom Brady's a whole different animal. But if you follow that line of thinking, there would have been a path for Bill to say, you know what? As great of a season that this guy had, he's 40 years old. I have a 26-year-old Garoppolo who's been learning, who we've been grooming. He's the next step in this whole process. Would it upset a lot of people in New England? Oh, absolutely.
That one would have been a tough pill to swallow.
But if you follow his thinking, the way Bill has always conducted business in New England, you could see that happening.
Well, it goes back to 2003 when right before the season, you guys cut Lawyer Malloy.
Yeah.
Right? And you guys lost to the Bills.
Yeah, I got smoked,
31-0, if I'm not mistaken. And Teddy, I've never seen Teddy hotter in a locker room after a game ever after that loss, because Lawyer went to the Bills.
Went to Buffalo, yep.
And they thumped you guys, and, there was all kinds of issues of what's going on. Worked out well. You guys did go win the Super Bowl that year. But my favorite thing about that season is you started the year losing to Buffalo 31-0 and the end of the year you beat Buffalo 31-0.
Yeah.
But that's sort of the game he's played the entire time. That's no longer an issue. And as Jimmy G is now gone and lighting it up, by the way, for the 49ers, he's 7-0 as a starter in the NFL, 5-0 as a starter for the San Francisco 49ers. So let's move ahead to the playoff game. Mm-hmm. They get the Tennessee Titans. Look, they're saying all the right things. They're gonna do all the right things, and the Patriots are gonna prepare as if the Titans are the best team that they'll ever face, because that's the way it is. Mm-hmm. But if you're the Patriots, you have to be feeling pretty good about this matchup.
Absolutely. Listen, I know everyone, that game last week with the Titans and the Chiefs, the comeback by the Titans and how Marcus Mariota played down the stretch. That's great. But let's be honest here. We got Tom Brady, and you got to look at the whole body of work of Marcus Mariota this year. He didn't have a great year this year. He regressed this year as a quarterback. So you're going to ask the Tennessee Titans to go into probably the hardest place to play in the postseason, in Foxborough, and go beat a team that, with all this stuff going on, with the article coming out, there's no team that knows how to use these things to motivate themselves and to use it to their advantage better than the Patriots. You're going to see what we call piss and vinegar. You're going to see that from the New England Patriots coming this weekend. They're going to be fired up and ready to go.
One of the places they have been susceptible, now defensively they started out horribly and certainly were playing better down the road, but for the year they're 20th against the run. Derrick Henry ran all over Kansas City. You may get Kyle Why am I drawing DeMarco Murray back?
Right.
You may get him back, but there are those that would say,
I was like, I wanted to help you, but I didn't know what you were talking about.
Just leave Derrick Henry in there because he seems to get stronger as the game goes on. Either way, that would be a way. Is that the way, I guess, in your mind for Tennessee, not only to try and win this game, but to control the game also?
That's the path for them. I think it's going to be paramount for them to control the clock. They got to chew up clock. Try to keep Brady on the sideline, but that's usually the strategy for most teams is to control time of possession. But here's the problem with when you're playing against the Patriots, and Bill used to teach us all the time. He used to say all the time, more teams find ways to lose the game than win them. And it's kind of the same script. Teams go up there, they commit a turnover, they do things to shoot themselves in the foot. The Patriots capitalize, end of story. So obviously the game plan is going to be a heavy dose of Derrick Henry because the one weakness for the Patriots is their front seven, their rush defense. But they're going to have to be able to score points to keep up with the Patriots, and I just don't see that happening.
Well, you know what that means then, as Damien Woody is here with us inside studios. That's the one thing that's not going to happen. Derrick Henry is not going to beat the Patriots. I mean, what they're better at than anybody, and I mean than anybody, is whatever you do well, we're taking that away. So this game is going to be on Marcus Mariota, who, by the way, has done one thing that Tom Brady has never done, throwing a touchdown pass to himself.
Yes, he has.
So he does have that little feather in his cap.
He does.
That's on his resume. So this game is going to come down to them making plays in the passing game because they will sell out to stop that run. I mean, that's why J.J. Watt never had a monster game on defense against New England, because they were going to make sure J.J. Watt didn't
triple team him.
Exactly. He is not going to beat you.
Right.
So let's not kid ourselves. They're not going to be able to run all over the Patriots because that's the one thing they're going to take away. So the question then becomes, can Marcus Mariota find other receivers besides himself to throw passes to beat New England?
I highly doubt it.
Yep.
Because, again, we go back to the point, the Patriots make you play left-handed. They want to take away the things that you're comfortable with. And in this particular situation, it'll be Derrick Henry. It'll be Delaney Walker. Okay, so make Eric Decker,
right?
Make those other guys beat you. And we saw in the Chiefs game. Listen, Eric Decker had a big catch,
he did,
but he also had a huge drop. So can those guys consistently make plays to beat the Patriots? That remains to be seen.
Yeah, it does. And with Marcus Mariota, to your point, Trey, I agree. What can he create outside the pocket? That's the second game on Saturday. The first game on Saturday, Atlanta is going to Philly, and boy, it's been a while since a number one seed hasn't felt like a number one seed. And you don't mean it in a derogatory way to Philadelphia. You lost the most important position on the field, the quarterback, and a guy who was playing at an MVP level in Carson Wentz. Nick Foles certainly has been capable as a backup, but you're talking about a number one seed and where they want to go. And now you look at the way Atlanta's playing. It's not about where you start, it's where you finish, how well they played out against the Rams. How do you see this one going?
Boy, that injury is looming large at the quarterback position for Philadelphia.
Everything.
Because here's the thing. Listen, Nick Foles, he can play within the structure of the offense, but what made Carson Wentz so special is the things that he can do outside of the structure of the offense. He has a huge arm talent, and the plays he makes off schedule, those were the plays throughout the season that made him an MVP candidate. And now you're taking that away. And now you're asking Nick Foles to go out and play against Matt Ryan and a team that they've been here before. They went out last week and played against the number one offense in the league in the LA Rams and shut them down to 13 points. You don't think that they're confident going into Philadelphia against a backup quarterback? Atlanta has to be feeling really good right now.
Two things about Atlanta. Number one, according to the Westgate Vegas Sportsbook, Philadelphia would have been favored by almost a touchdown, 6.5 points if Carson Wentz was the quarterback. They open at 2.5-point underdog. So that's basically a 9-point swing on the spread based on Carson Wentz. And I'm glad you mentioned the defense because we did the numbers as I did NFL Primetime last Saturday. The last 6 games for the Falcons, they played the Rams, the highest scoring offense in the NFL. They played the Saints twice, who obviously have tons of weapons on offense. They played the Panthers, a playoff team, and they played the Bucs. In those 6 games, that defense of the Atlanta Falcons is averaging just giving up 16 points a game. So we can talk about Matt Ryan, and we can talk about Julio Jones and Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman, Mohamed Sanu, Austin Hooper, all that stuff. The Falcons are in the playoffs because of their defense, and they have been dominating high-power offenses, and now they get Nick Foles.
Absolutely. And listen, Matt Ryan hasn't been Matt Ryan.
Nope.
All you have to do is look at what the Falcons were doing last year to this year, I mean, it's been a big drop-off offensively. And like you said, Trey, it's been the defense. And the thing that pops out about the Atlanta Falcons defense is their speed. They fly all over the field. They put you behind the chains and the down and distances, and they get after the quarterback. And I expect them to do the same with Nick Foles.
Yeah, I do as well. One last note on that. We'll go to the Sunday games is, so if you're an Eagle fan, you're like, okay, defense, undersized, built on speed. Maybe, because it's been cold and bad weather, maybe we can get some bad weather. I'm looking at the forecast right now. 51 and partly sunny on Saturday.
Not what you're looking for.
Man, not what you're looking for at all for that fast defense to be able to get off. Sunday, first game, Jacksonville at Pittsburgh. Rematch. Jacksonville smoke pit early in the season, 30-9. Really doesn't have a whole lot to do with this game. Ben threw 5 picks. Nobody thinks he's going to throw 5 picks. We don't know about Antonio Brown in this one. But Jacksonville, you can't really be going into a game with more, even though you may not have a ton of confidence in your quarterback and Blake Bortles, from a team standpoint, this team is pretty confident now.
They're a confident bunch. They're a well-coached bunch. That defense, man. Oof. Listen, one thing you want to pack in the playoffs is defense. Jacksonville, they got the luggage. They got the luggage to take this thing. The question is, can they score enough points? Because as great as their defense is, and they have a bunch of playmakers on defense, you can't expect the Jacksonville Jaguars defense to hold down the Steelers to 9 points like they did earlier in the season. I just don't see that happening. Can Blake Bortles make enough plays? He threw for under 100 yards. Under 100 yards.
He threw for 87 and ran for 88.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I call him Blake Vick. I mean, he literally his legs was better than his arms, but he's going to have to make, if they're going to win the game, he's going to have to make plays in the passing game to beat Pittsburgh in Heinz Field.
And that's what Pittsburgh's going to do. They're going to say, dude, you guys going to beat us. Blake,
stack the box. Stack the box.
Right. Yeah.
And, well, that's the thing. I mean, look, when they won last time up there, week 5, Ben threw 5 interceptions.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
No.
Blake Bortles was 8 of 14 for 95 yards. That's very likely to be the scenario again.
Right.
So what? Give me what you think Blake has to do in this game, because for three games down the stretch of the regular season, he looked awesome. 3 straight games, first time in his career, 13, 14, 15, multiple touchdown passes, no interceptions. Sadly, then they played week 15, 16, and 17, and he was terrible again. What numbers do you need to see out of Blake Bortles to have a chance to win in Pittsburgh?
Well, I'm not going to say necessarily numbers, but here's what I'm going to say. Because when you're Blake Bortles, you're hearing everything that everybody's saying right now, like basically that you've sucked for the past couple of weeks. It's imperative to get his confidence going early. They're going, they have the running game, they have the offensive line, but the offensive coaching staff, they need to get him going early. Some easy pitches, easy throws to let him know, okay, I have a little rhythm going. I think that's going to be the key early for Blake Bortles, to get those easy passes completed and get his confidence going. If that doesn't happen, this dude could easily tank in the game, because Pittsburgh, like we said, they're going to stack the box, and they're basically going to say, Blake, you're going to have to beat us. You are going to have to be. We're not going to let Leonard Fournette run wild. We're not going to let Chris Ivory, bang up against our defense. You're going to have to beat us. And the way that Blake Bortles does it, he needs to complete passes early in the football game.
And the problem was there were easy passes he was missing.
I mean, wide open.
Missing in that game. So and you can't, it's really hard to think he's going to do that again. He's got to be better than he was before. We'll see just how good he is. And the last game is New Orleans at Minnesota. To me, I mean, this New Orleans offense, obviously Breeze can throw all over the place. Thomas, great receiver. The two-headed backfield against this Minnesota defense. Talk about that matchup. Man.
I think of all the matchups this weekend, that's the matchup that I want to see.
Agreed. Because
that Minnesota Vikings defense is just nasty. Now you're going against an offense. They have all of those weapons, and the difference between the Saints offenses of the past and this year, boy, they have balance.
Yep.
They have tremendous balance running the football, and they have 2 guys, especially Alvin Kamara, who is just special. I don't even call him a running back. He's an offensive weapon.
OW.
He's an OW. That's his position.
DraftKings, he's our flex player.
Yeah,
every week. Yeah, that's right. Every week.
That's right. Listen, because there's no question he can run the football, but man, he's special when you bring him out of the backfield or split him out in the passing game. that's almost an impossible matchup for any defensive player in the National
And
Football
that's
League.
always the thing to see, is especially when you split them out. Who's guarding them?
Who is guarding
Who's guarding them? And you can tell how they're guarding them. Is it man? Is it going to be zone? How they're going to play them? And that's something obviously you try and do as an offense.
Right.
You get a read on how the defense is going to play somebody. But that to me is when he lines up out of the backfield, who's on him?
Absolutely. Yeah. But I think, and Mike, you'll appreciate this. This game is going to come down to the fronts.
Yeah.
It's going to come down to the fronts because that Minnesota Vikings defensive line, they're good. They're really good. They got, Everson Griffin.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the difference. That's going to be the key in this game. We talk about all the flashy guys, the Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara, all those guys, but this game is going to literally come down to the fronts. Who imposes their will on each other? I think that's what's going to win the game.
Well, then it comes down to this. Do we believe that the Vikings defense, which is a really, really good defense, can do exactly what the Carolina Panthers did? Because they took Kamara and Ingram out of that contest, and they said, Drew Brees, you beat us, and of course he did.
Right.
But I also think that they have a better secondary, Minnesota does than New Orleans. So do they have the weapons on both the front seven and the back end with Trey Waynes and Xavier Rhodes and Harrison Smith and all those other guys back there to limit Drew Brees if they do stop the run?
I think they do have the weapons. If they make Drew Brees, this is the crazy thing about the New Orleans Saints. Most teams, if you make them one-dimensional, they're kind of screwed. Not with New Orleans. I think Sean Payton has no problems if the running game's not going. Okay, Drew, go ahead and win us a game because he's definitely capable.
Yes,
but I think once you're in that situation, again, it goes back down to the defensive line of the Minnesota Vikings because now you don't have to respect the run.
Yeah.
Now you can just pin your ears back and get after the quarterback, and no quarterback wants to see that.
See, we can always do all this kind of stuff. At the end of the day, it's all about the guys in the trenches.
It's all – listen, I always say –
about the guys in the trenches.
I always say when it comes to the playoffs, look at the cream rises to the top as far as the big boys in the trenches. The best teams the best teams have the best players in the line of scrimmage. They're playing the best. That's why they're in the postseason.
Hey, look, last year the teams that played in the Super Bowl were the teams that had the most snaps together with their starting five offensive linemen. You can pretend like it doesn't matter. It matters. You know what it is, in Mark Davis' words? O-line play is an effing big deal.
There you go.
It is. It's an effing big deal. Or big effing deal.
Big effing deal, yeah.
All right, Damien, thanks. NFL Live today?
Yes.
All right, NFL Live for you.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold.
It's very interesting where that went.
We are delighted to be joined on the phone now by Alabama defensive back Minkah Fitzpatrick, coming off his second national championship in 3 years at Alabama. Minkah, first of all, congratulations, and take us through the emotions of that game. It certainly seemed like you guys swung the pendulum there, being down 13, then coming back with the big second half and winning it in overtime.
It was a crazy game. I mean, as y'all seen, the emotions on our sideline, we were all pretty much locked in the whole game. We were ready to go, whether we were up or whether we were down. We were just really focused on just doing our job and executing. And I think we just did it a whole lot better in the second half than we did the first. But like you said, it was a crazy and wild game, but it was a real fun one to be a part of.
And make it take people where they'll never be able to go, and that's inside a locker room and inside an Alabama locker room. At halftime, you're down 13-0. So what goes on with a Nick Saban locker room at halftime in that situation?
We went over a couple of the plays, the calls, and stuff like that, stuff we did wrong, adjustments we needed to make. But a couple of the guys, we just stood up and said, we don't want to hear no talking. We don't want to hear nobody talking about this or that. We just want to see everybody go out there and do their job. We just want to see everybody go out there and execute, finish, play physical, and dominate the guy in front of you. And that's just what we expressed to the team, and I think we did a real good job of that during halftime. And Coach Saban pretty much said the same exact thing when he addressed the whole team.
Well, Minkah Fitzpatrick with us, defensive back for Alabama. One of the adjustment that you made at halftime was a really big one, and that was making the switch at quarterback as Jalen Hurts went out and Tua Tagovailoa came in. What were you expecting out of that freshman? And I know you've seen him play before, and everyone talked about his potential, but did you really think, this kid's going to go out there and throw 3 touchdown passes in the second half, including a bomb to win it in overtime?
If they didn't expect him to do that, they wouldn't have put him in the game. You know, I think we were all expecting really big things from him, and we all knew how good he was going into that game, and we all had faith and trust in him. The coaches had faith and trust in him, and they just realized what he can do, and they just put him in the game, and he did his job, and he, like you said, just brought us back from behind.
While you're on the other side of the ball, you're also one of the leaders on that team. Did you say anything to him before he went out there once you knew he was going to go out on the field?
I did. He was walking down the sideline right before halftime, and I could tell like he was getting locked in, he was getting focused, and he was about to get on the field. And I said, "You good?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm about to go out there." And I was like, "Okay." I said, "The lock in," and I said, "Take over." I said, "Just take over and do what you do." And he said, "I got you, bro. I got you, bro." And he did that in the second half. So I was really happy for him and really excited.
Well, he certainly did. So those are good words on your part. Just take over. That might have been what got him going. As Minkah Fitzpatrick is here with us on Golic and Wingo, the second-time national champion in Alabama. You're the second-rated player, by the way, on Mel Kiper's big board in terms of draft-eligible players that might go in April. Now, you have until January 15th to declare for the draft. You haven't done so yet. Can you tell us which way you're leaning at this point?
I think it's pretty obvious which way I'm leaning. We're just talking with my family, my coaches on what to do right now.
Third player to win the Bednarik and Thorpe Awards in the same season, joining Patrick Peterson in 2010 and Charles Woodson in 1997. It's pretty good company. I'm always interested in the process of that because, you know, there's some quotes from there. There's other guys, Duran, as I mentioned earlier, Duran Payne, Damian Harris, Bo Scarborough, Ronnie Harmon, Calvin Ridley, who are thinking about this choice as well. And you mentioned family. How about Nick or your coaches who coach you? How much are they involved, and what kind of advice and talk do they give you?
I mean, they're really involved. They get us our grades. They talk to us, make sure that we're going or we're staying for the right reason. And you know, they have our best interests on their minds. So they're not gonna want us to stay for selfish reasons, and they're not going to want us to leave for selfish reasons. So, you know, they're looking out for us, and they want what's best for us and our families.
Minkah Fitzpatrick with us. Just to be clear, you said it's pretty obvious which way you're leaning, so we're assuming you're leaning toward. We're not asking you to declare here on the show.
Unless you want to.
Unless you really want to do that, we'd be fine with that. But it certainly sounds like you're leaning towards going into the draft.
Yeah, I would say so, yes, sir.
Okay, just want to make sure we're clear on that one.
As far as Georgia, we talked about the true freshman in Tua who came on the field, but Jake Fromm, the freshman quarterback for Georgia, was starting pretty much the entire year when Eason went out. Give us a little bit on him. Here's a kid who is a true freshman that's stepping in and leads his team in Georgia to the national championship game, and that's the guy you really had to deal with for the game. Talk about him and what you thought of him, especially being a true freshman on that spot, on that stage.
I have a whole lot of respect for him. You know, he's a real young dude playing for a great program, great coaches, and he did a really good job this whole season. And you know, he fought really hard. He made a lot of great plays with his feet, with his arm. Like I said, he's just a leader, and you know, he's gonna have a really great career at Georgia. And I think he's a great player.
Minkah Fitzpatrick with us, second overall pick on Mel Kiper's big board in the draft. Won another national championship in Alabama. And, you know, we read something about this, Minkah, that thought was very interesting. Years from now, when people may be asking you about that play that won the game.
The play to tie the game. Tie the game and ended up going in. The big play in the game. Why you didn't see it? What were you doing?
I was going to the bathroom on the sideline.
That's a great story. Years from now, hey, it's a legendary play in Alabama history. Minkah, you were on the field. Tell us all about it. Well, I was kind of busy at the time.
But you knew how you were going to. I like your explanation. You can tell everybody of how you knew if it was going to be a good player or a successful player. Now.
Oh yeah. So I could tell like which side was the Alabama side. So like Alabama side was to the left side of our tent, and the Georgia side was to the right side of our tent. So if the left side started cheering, I knew it was us. We got the first down or scored a touchdown. If it was the right side, that means it was Georgia, and I had to go run out on the field. go back on defense. So that's how I knew what was going on.
Crowd will always tell you. The crowd will always tell you. Minkah, that's a great story.
And that was for the game winner, too. You were correct for that one. That's an amazing story, though.
Unbelievable. That one will get a lot of mileage years from now.
Yes,
Trust me on this one.
Yeah.
It's sort of funny, ha-ha now, but people will be dying later after your 12-year NFL career. You tell that story. You'll bring down the house on the banquet circuit, I promise you. Hey, Minkah, we appreciate you being with us this morning. Congratulations on another national championship, and it looks like we'll be talking to you leading up to the draft in April, and we look forward to that process as well.
Thanks, Minkah. Congrats.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. Make sure to subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, and to listen every weekday morning at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and the ESPN app.
I'm a robot vacuum cleaner, so yeah, I got one gig. I suck up dirt, so pardon my inferiority complex about Geico, who does so much more. Like, not only could they save their customers money on car insurance, but they got fast and friendly claim service too, and an award-winning mobile app. Plus access to licensed agents 24/7. Who am I kidding? I can't even do corners. Uh-oh, choking hazard.
Popcorn kernels.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.